Jan from Nonnas, and today we're going to be doing one of my favourite dishes, which is a good bistecca served with fagioli with sage and some rosemary and garlic potatoes. So how we're going to do it is very sort of a classic sort of Tuscan. We're going to use fagioli, some white beans, and we're going to simply cook those just with some sage and olive oil. Very, very simple, very sort of like peasant food from Tuscany. What we're also going to do it with is some rosemary and garlic potatoes. So this is one of the classic ways my sort of granny used to do it, and something I recommend everyone has a little jar of this in their cupboard or in their fridge. So simply get some garlic, sort of peel it off. I've got some peeled it off. A little sort of squashed down. Nice and simple. Rosemary, you can use fresh or you can use dried. I've got some out of the garden there. So just pick the needles off, etc. And then we're going to sort of chop this up. You can use one of the mezzaluna sort of cuts or a regular knife. Just want to be chopping it into sort of small fine pieces to sort of start off with. Again, as we talked before, tuck your fingers underneath. Okay. And then this time we're actually going to use sort of table salt. So it's a good sort of handful there. And then the sort of trick is to sort of press sort of everything today, so you're getting all the juices out, the garlic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just pop that into a little jar. Nice and easy. So I've peeled the potatoes already. How I sort of like to do it sounds a bit mad this way, but I almost like to do them in the sort of like misshapes. So you probably wonder why is it doing all sort of misshaped. Well, I find that then you've got more surfaces to sort of catch and to brown and to sort of crisp. All we're going to do with these, I've just warmed some oil in the pan in the oven. Got my potatoes. This couldn't be more simple. So potatoes in the warm oil. That we've just sort of prepared. So mix that in. Give it sort of a good mix around, nice and easy. Then pop it in the oven for, depending on how many there is, sort of 15-20 minutes if you're on sort of quite high heat. As you can see, the actual potato size isn't too big, so it's almost like mini little roasted potatoes, but with that great garlic, etc. So that's going to go with our steak that we're going to show a bit later. So we're here to talk about Florentine steak and our version of the Florentine steak. Traditionally, Florentine steaks comes from the Cucina cattle, and it's a T-bone cut of the steak with the fillet and the sirloin on. And traditionally, it's cooked over sort of the open charcoals on olive twigs that have been picked from the farm, and it's 2-3 inches sort of thick, served medium rare, with sort of Tuscan beans, sage and olive oil. So it's a very, very sort of simple dish, and today we're going to show you how to cook one. Seasoning. As you can sort of see, this is actually sort of quite dry. It's not sort of any blood. I've sort of patted it dry, so it's quite dry. But then what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of just regular olive oil and just give it a little film of the oil on there. Just use your hand there, and then seasoning wise, I always use sort of the maldon salt, and actually really sort of generous sort of sprinkling of it there. Almost you think you're actually sort of over seasoning it all there. Just squash that in. Some cracked black pepper as well. So flip that over. A bit something more on that sort of side. As you can see, this will help form a really sort of nice sort of crust on there. It will give it that extra depth of flavour. Some people advocate to seasoning afterwards. I don't. Some do, some don't. So that's ready to go into our red hot pan. So now we're going to put the steak into the pan, and as you can see, we've really got this pan red hot, and you can see the smoke coming off it before we've even put the steak in. So I can't sort of stress how important it is to get it as hot as you can. One tip almost is actually pop your oven on, get your frying pan, put your frying pan in the oven for sort of 10 minutes, etc. Take it out, put the pan on the stove. Just obviously remember the handle's going to be hot. And it's one of those things that drives my wife absolutely mad, the amount of smoke that we make. We've got the windows open, we're going to have all the extraction fans on in a moment. You'll see the amount of smoke. So, okay, we've got a lovely seasoned sort of steak here. Obviously we need a pan big enough for the steak, so straight away you'll see it's really sizzling. And what will happen then, it'll start to form that crust on there. So with that salt and the pepper on there, you'll get a really nice brown crust. One of the important parts of cooking a steak is really getting that crust on there, leaving the centre to your preference. We're going to sort of leave it medium rare. That's how we're going to sort of do it. Grab your little utensils. So now we can sort of almost see we're starting to, the salt is almost forming its little crust and getting some browning on the meat there. And you know, I'd even like it a little bit hotter as well. Classically it's just done with olive oil. We're going to add a little bit of rosemary and butter later just to get a bit sort of more depth of flavour. And another sort of good point, when we actually chop it off the bone, that you know the bone is great. That's where all the flavour is, and the marrow is on the bone as well. That's sort of great to sort of chew on the bone. So this is going to be the accompaniment to go with the Florentine-style steak. So we've talked about these are white Bianchi fagioli, and these are a tinned version. Nothing wrong with the tinned version. Obviously already cooked through, and they've got a lovely creamy nature to them. So we're just going to warm them through. We don't need to cook them through. So I've just got some warm olive oil. I've actually used a good olive oil rather than an extra virgin olive oil. So again, we're not sort of cooking it, so it's not going to denature that great olive oil. So just beans in, and then what I'm going to do is just get a couple of sage leaves, just pop them in, pop them on the stove, let it warm through. Then near the end, we're just going to sprinkle it with a little bit of rock salt. That's it, plain and simple. Perfect, really going really, really well. As you can sort of see now, we're starting to get a really nice sort of crust on the side of the steak. Really nice caramelisation, got a lot of the fat melting, etc. But as we're seeing here, it's still very, very soft and springy in the centre. So to me, that's signifying it still needs a fair amount more cooking in that centre. So we need to get that heat in there. What we're trying to get is medium rare. So coming on really, really well. Okay. So now we're getting to my favourite bit here. So we're nearly at the end of the cooking process. So I like to add some nice butter, and then some fresh rosemary. So fresh, better than dry on sort of this occasion. Sort of rub the sort of steak with it. What we're going to do is that sort of butter melts and starts to brown and sort of foam. We're going to just baste the steak almost and just coat it, and gives it that lovely finish and gleam. As you can see, foaming away there. Keep sort of turning it over, and it almost adds to that sort of caramelisation. You can see you're getting a really lovely colour on the steak there. Trick is not to let the butter burn too much. If it does happen to burn, what you can do is pour that butter away and add some more butter, etc. You can see lovely, lovely colour. So doing a good baste. What we're going to do now, another sort of important process, is to actually let it rest for a while. So, wow, this is starting to look good. I'm going to pop that on there. And then all these juices and the butter and the olive oil and that salt and the rosemary. Make sure to get every little bit on there. Put that on there. So then just what we're going to do, it's simple, just grab a little bit of foil. Ideally you want to warm that plate, not so it's boiling hot. Give it a little cover over, like that. And I'd leave that, you know, a good 5, 6, 7 minutes. So really give it plenty of time to rest. we've got the fagioli here, just very, very sort of simmering away. Let's not have them too hot, turn those down a touch. And then we're going to have a quick check on the potatoes, see how the potatoes are doing. Just about there. Oh, perfect. Here you can see we've got some of the garlic crust up, etc. Those are just about done. Little rosemary and garlic potatoes, just to add a bit of theatre. So you can see really nice, lovely, crispy. Those in there. Sizzling away. Put that over there. We've got the white beans with the sage, etc. And we want to add a little rock salt, a bit of the maldon salt. And you can see now that it's almost got like a little creaminess to them there. That's just the olive oil and the beans merging together. Wow, delicious. Okay. And then for the main event, let's hope this has come out how we wanted it. So, or you can see you've got some of the sort of the juices in there mixed with the butter and the rosemary, etc. I'll just clear that off sort of slightly. Wow, so this is how we like to serve it. So you'll see on Italian menus as well, like tagliata. Tagliata just means like a cut steak. So this is what we mean by it. How I sort of like to cut it as well, is just sort of try and cut it at an angle as well. So you'll see what I mean. So lovely, really nice and pink still inside. What I'm going to do. So now we've got for the sort of presentation. So you can see all that fat has just marbled away. That salt has formed that lovely sort of crust, etc. And that bone is just calling out. So look, all these lovely juices here, the butter, the bit of the blood and the olive oil, etc. To me, this is just the nectar. So I just like pour that all in there. Wonderful. So there's only one thing left to do now, which is the privilege. Let's give it a little sample. So, juices. Wow, pretty good. So, classic Florentine dish, Florentine style steak, rosemary and garlic potatoes, fagioli bianchi with sage, olive oil, etc.